so you have a penchant for choking. But you still have a contending roster and the pieces to go far in the playoffs with the reinforcements you brought in. Maybe it was just a Chief Wahoo curse, but it's time to answer the doubters and to bring back that World Series trophy to Cleveland. But first, you must get past the regular season, in which you win less games in comparison to the last season. This roster is absolutely loaded and one of the best in all of baseball, and it starts of course with the lineup. So now hopefully Michael Brantley will be able to play, but if he doesn't, they still have a really good lineup. But with him in the lineup, there's also Francisco Lindor and Jason Kipnis, whom actually struggled a bit last year, but they also have Jose Ramirez, who came on the scene, and then there's Edwin Encarnacion, whom they picked up 2 off seasons ago at this point, and they also picked up Yonder Alonso from Seattle and Oakland in the past season. So Yonder Alonso he's actually a pretty good fit in guarantee or progressive field, mind you. And then they also have Michael Brantley, as mentioned before, Bradley Zimmer, Lonnie Chisenhall, and Roberto Perez. So this lineup is a really good one. It's a grade A for me. And then when it comes to their bench, first of all, they have Giovanni Urshela and Brandon Guyer both out with injuries. And so Guyer, we'll see if he'll be able to come back this season after recovering from wrist surgery. He's still recovering from wrist surgery from last year in October. And then there's Urshela. Hopefully he'll be able to come back in 10 to 14 days after having a strained hamstring. But with what they have right now, there's Rajai Davis, Tyler Naquin, Eric Gonzalez, and Yan Gomes in the big league level, to go along with Francisco Mejia, their top prospect, whom is projected to come up this year, as well as Eric Haase. And then there's also Bobby Bradley, another top prospect projected to come up this year. And then they have Yandy Diaz and Eric Stamets, Willie Castro, and then there's also Yu Cheng Chang. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to pronounce one the other way, but Yu Cheng Chang is a guy that's projected to come up this year also, and so is Greg Allen. So they have some prospects that can come up and reinforce some of their veterans. And then there's also Abraham Almonte and Rob Refsnyder. So their depth is pretty good, and I'll give it a grade of a B. And then, I mean, it could even be a B+, but I'll say a B right now. Then when it comes to their rotation, another really good quality of this team: Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco, Trevor Bauer, Mike Clevenger, Josh Tomlin, and then even then they still have Cody Anderson, Ryan Merritt, and Danny Salazar specifically injured. Anderson is actually recovering from Tommy John surgery from March of last year, so we'll see if he comes back this season. Then there's also Salazar, who had shoulder inflammation in mid-January. Not ready for the start of the season, but once he comes back, the rotation will be even better. And I mean, this rotation is an A. It might be the best rotation in baseball, besides maybe the Nats rotation, but I mean, it's definitely top 2, top 3 at the very worst. So it is a grade A, as I mentioned before. In terms of prospects that could come up, there is one in Shane Bieber. Shane Bieber. Another prospect that could come up this year if somebody gets injured, so we'll see how that goes. He could even be an asset if they want to reload with their depth in the lineup or with their fielders, so there's possibilities there. When it comes to the bullpen, another really good quality of this team. Not quite as good as the Yankees bullpen, but it's still a really good bullpen. Andrew Miller, Cody Allen, they even picked up Matt Belisle. Then there's also Nick Goody, Tyler Olson, Dan Otero, Zach McAllister. This bullpen gets a grade of an A- from me. So this roster is loaded. It is loaded, and it could come out of the AL if the Chief Wahoo curse was actually real. And now that he's not gotten rid of yet, but he will be gotten rid of after this season, or after next season, I can't remember if it's after this season or next season, but he will be gotten rid of, so maybe that'll help him out. I actually think that this team can break through this season since they have an excellent roster and found proper reinforcements this past offseason for losing a few pieces. And if need be, they can move some of their assets to get more depth, or if some of those assets are ready to come up, they can come up and replace some of their other guys that are not producing. And so while they should be a great team this year, again, they still have to close out a playoff series this time. Being able to adapt to other ballparks is something that should help also. The over-under for this team is 93-69. The final prediction that I have for them is 96-66, so over by 3 wins, and first in the AL Central. Let me know if you agree. Let me know why I'm overestimating the prestige of this team. It is a predictions video, and that's what predictions are all about. And so that'll do it for this Indians edition of 2018 MLB season previews, and so long.